presentation, I think we can open the floor for question and answer, or maybe we move on to Professor Bamiro's presentation. Because he's back to the platform now, we lost him. And unfortunately, we don't even know he's not connected. He has been taking for almost 45 minutes. Apology for that. It's an opportunity for us to do a research and come up with something that can give us a better service beyond what we have. Hello, Prof. I think we don't need to go through any further introduction. If Prof is ready, you can go ahead with the presentation. Hello, Prof. Yeah. Hello, Prof. Prof is a data-driven former Vice Chancellor. You know, I get excited about talking to him all the time. He's done it. He has done it. And he's the guy pushing the triple helix innovation model in Nigeria. You know, talking about industry, academia, and society. And he's the chairman of National Research Fund, the largest research fund in West Africa, about 5.6 billion naira that is given out for this research. Professor James mentioned this yesterday that even not because of people like Prof, we cannot see people accessing this fund. If you look at the rate at which fund has been accessed over the last 4 to 5 years, you see a lot of increase in the number and also the grants. Prof, are you there? I'm not going to talk much. Prof will do that. Professor Bamiro, is he muted? Oh, he muted himself. Okay, Prof, you need to unmute yourself. Is he the one presenting? And the one sharing the slide? Okay, fine. Prof, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, Prof. Thank you very much, and apologies for the technology crisis.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Prof, we can.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
You can. You can see my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. Sorry, this technology now. I'd already gone very far, not knowing that I was not that I was out. Anyway, from what I've even listened to, especially this last presentation, I just took a cue from the theme of your, of this meeting having to do with graduate employability and research. And that was why I said, wow, let me share with you what we have done, under NUC. NUC constituted a panel in which I was the chairman to look at graduate employability and the challenges in the Nigerian university system and to see whatever. So I just felt that, well, I will quickly share with you, the outcome the highlights of the outcome of looking at graduate employability and the Nigerian university, system. As the last presenter has mentioned, the need for skills, matching and so on. The disconnect between university and the industrial space, which has also, caused a lot of problems. So I'm sharing, and then in tackling graduate employability, we also look beyond Nigeria, because graduate employability, don't think it's Nigerian problem. No, it's global. From what we found looking at North Africa, looking at Asia, looking at Europe, South America, and so on, we had a lot to learn. That we are brought to bear now in moving the Nigerian university forward. And I felt that probably once we share. So I move fast, like I said. I hope people are still hearing me. I hope people are hearing me. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I
We
can
hear
hear
I
me.
hear you, sir. I'm sure of
You can hear me. Okay. So you can hear me. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Please. Thank you. I will move fast so that I do not delay. Like I said, the organizer should share the slides. I mean, because I put a number of things with the hope that people can sit down quietly and go through the site to see, what one has presented. So that enables me to move fast to really provide the highlights of, what we have found out. Now, in respect of part one, in respect of graduate employability and the result of what's happening all over the world, it's first of all started from even as way back as 2013 at the Association of African Universities. I mean, we all realized that graduate employability became so serious in Africa. I mean, from the statistics, somebody also gave statistics in Nigeria. Really, really, worrisome. But we found that even in Africa, 60% were unemployed youth between ages of 15 to 24, and a significant number of being graduates. And we now were able to challenge ourselves that the only way is to make sure that our graduates are productively employed or can be self-employed. But in here also, I warn that please, we have to distinguish between graduate employment and graduate employability. Rightly, graduate employability is what the concern of our universities, looking at the skills and so on. But whether we can produce employable graduates and yet not employed, because there's an external factor, which is the economy, the absorptive capacity of our economy, and all the opportunity for graduates also to work in that economy. So this is very, very important. In here, as somebody has also mentioned, we brought to ourselves the Arab Spring. Most of us have heard about the Arab Spring. What caused it was youth unemployment, and like a lady said, the main reason for the revolution in Libya as a result of this Arab Spring had to do with unemployment. And people can even say that our so-called NSAS could be as a result of, unemployment in which they are mainly graduate. But in any case, there is need. What we have gained in here is that the approach, from the MENA region was that they realized that university will have to tackle unemployment. Graduate employability. And they brought in British Council and other funding agencies to really look into the sector. And we gained from that when we were working for the NUC that, graduate employability concern individuals, educators, and employers. We must take care of this structure in tackling employability. So in here, they were able to interview across the MENA region students and recent graduates, then employers of labor and institutions, to be able to get to the root of the problem. And from the students and recent graduates, they were getting this type of feedback. Here's a student from Morocco saying we should study subjects that will be useful for our future job. They should be more relevant. Then some of the students saying, whenever my friends and I talk about it, we say, why bother? Either way, we'll be unemployed. Then some say we talk about what job we get after we graduate. We say that we work anywhere. In other words, they're ready to take any job. But the one that is of interest is a student from Saudi Arabia, a graduate, who said, if I had the chance to meet with employers while I was a student, it would have given me an incentive to study. We see this nothing more than our SciWest program, Student Industrial Work Experience Scheme. Honestly, that is a scheme that is in the Nigerian university system that we must take very seriously. That scheme we started in UI. When I joined UI in the late 70s, 80s, we had that scheme. To be able to implement that scheme at the University of Ibadan then, in engineering, in the Faculty of Engineering, Technology, we had to spend extra 1 year compared to the graduates in maybe AB, Unsuka, Unilag doing engineering. Students in Ibadan then were spending extra 1 year. Although some people are criticizing that, why no issues? No, but it made a lot of difference, the industrial attachment. I can assure you that our students who were in petroleum, some of them, our attachment was equivalent, 12 months, 1 year. distributed in 3 batches, 3 months, 3 months, 6 months. The 6 months attachment, some of our students went abroad for attachment in petroleum. They went as far as Texas for the industrial attachment for the 6 months. And you could see the difference coming back because they have meaningful. It makes a lot of difference. So don't let us take this thing, lightly. No, it's very, very important. It makes it, and of course, during that time, most of our students, before they graduated, they got jobs. As simple as that, because of the exposure. It was because of that success that, for example, Koren, Council of Registered Engineers, in Nigeria, now said, no, all engineering programs must now have sideways, included for 1 year. It was the success at Ibadan. An area that I will really, really, emphasize that we should take seriously if we are talking, really getting a student. Then other students, most of them talk about outdated curricula and things like that, which we also recognize. But most important, employers also, they complain that most of the students were not ready, work ready, and things like that. No problem, we are quite friendly. But most importantly, it's one employer who says, I need a graduate who can express himself through communication skills. He also said, another said that I ask graduates to have teamwork skills, working as a team. Most universities ignore this. Getting students to work as a team. And we saw this as based on that project, the assignment given to us by NUC. We were in Scotland because we discovered that Scotland had very high rate of graduate employability. And we were interested in seeing what were they doing that we are not doing. And what we find, one of these things is a student working skills, a student working in a team. And the university, achieved this. Now, what did they do? They first of all, internally, they were assigning problems to work on as a team. They were also bringing problems from industry and encouraging people from industry to challenge students with problems. And the students, were asked to address the problem from industry and then providing feedback in terms of the solutions. And we saw this in action when they took us to what we thought was the library. No, their library was changed to Student Learning Center. And what did we see? On one part, yes, we saw the traditional library, bookshelves, reading table, students reading, fine. On another part, we saw many round tables, different number of chairs, 10 chairs, a round table, 7, 6, 7. And we saw a number of people and were interested and we closed. And we found that the table that I examined, I found that there were 8 people in there. 6 of them were students of the university. The remaining 2 were from industry. And they were working on, the students were presenting and discussing the solutions to the problem that have been brought and assigned to them. And you can imagine the intimidated discussion and so on. You can imagine that type of thing, creating confidence in such students. So we shouldn't take this for granted. Getting students to work as a team, it goes a long way. Well, time will not permit me, then some students. Most importantly, what we got overall in going around the various modules, whether China, US, and so on, people now are dealing with outcome-based learning mode, outcome curriculum, outcome-based curriculum. And what I mean by that, it means that when we have a course, we must be able to say, what are the learning objectives? What are the skills that we expect students to develop, and so on. And all this, and then of course, we have to worry, how do we embed this in the curriculum to be able to achieve this? This is basically outcome. So it's different from the existing one where we just have description, 2 or 3 sentences, we go to the class, we teach, and then we just set our exams. No, that is no longer the case. You must be able to ascertain the type of skills that, or learning objectives of each subject. And this is the direction the BMAS now, the Benchmark Minimum Academic Standard of NGOs is going, in terms of ensuring that all the disciplines that you have, you must be able to identify what are the sort of skills, and you must embed this into the curricula. And another aspect, which you have seen is the internship program, the sideways, which must be taken. The only thing that we saw is that, yes, we had a training unit. I mean, with responsibility for placing students. In some cases, students have to place themselves. But we find that the lecturers were not really involved. But we found that in the countries where this thing was a big success, lecturers were equally involved in visiting the student industry. So, lesson that also, I mean, one would like to communicate. Then, university also, awareness of the employment market. You know, that what is happening out there, what are the jobs, and what are the skills required. I mean, this is also a challenge, you know, to our university. This really was a major output, you know, of a study which, you know, the modification of the BMAS. Then in here, you see in the slides, which you begin to show that Asia also, they had a problem, also, you know, addressing this. So in the case of Nigeria, we found that British Council in 2012, a skill mismatch, like somebody, the last speaker talked about skill mismatch. They found 60.6% skill mismatch among recent graduates. And the skills mismatch occurred in area of communication, information technology, decision-making, critical thinking, interpersonal relationship, and entrepreneurial. I mean, so these again are the areas that we must be addressing. Then, while we say that, yes, there were no jobs out in there, but there were jobs that could not be filled because there were no skills available. And here, based on ICF and UNIDO, they were able to show in the housing sector about almost 20% of jobs not being able to fill, petrochemical and so on. I mean, you can see this is the type of awareness that, I mean, we feel that university should have. Then, you know, people think that there's a lack of employability skills in our system. Like I said, you'll be able to, I mean, read some of this. Like the last speaker said, coming on the Nigerian system, lack of digital skills and digital creativity that is expected to drive the fourth industrial revolution. I think I don't have to expatiate on this. The last presentation had already, I mean, really, presented this, that is very, very key. And why even in Nigeria we should take it seriously is also what he has shown, the demographic dividend of having youth, because IT, digital is youth. And we have this in abundance that we should not opportunity. So this is very, very key that we have to be aware of. And then in here, people now divide skills into hard skills and soft skills. The hard skills is what we concentrate on, but we tend to ignore the soft skills. You know, and what are the soft skills? Student flexibility, independent critical thinking, communication skills, reflective learning, teamwork, which I mentioned, ethics, and so on. Very, very important. I mean, something that we don't ignore. We tend not to pay attention to this, but those universities we study, I mean, they really paid attention to this. So it's very, very important. So in here, in summarizing graduate employability, we kill behind the European Union. We said that employability is a combination of factors that will enable individuals to enter employment, stay in employment, and do very well. But that the attitude, but also other factors to the university that are beyond the university in terms of labor market regulation, demography, the structure of our economy. Overall, thus, what we are saying now, when we look at employability, is a triple helix. University, government, employers must be, have important role to play. But what are the roles for the university? What are the roles for the university? Again, it says in the current, we say we are knowledge worker. Yes. But what they come in no longer pays you for what you know. Because Google knows everything. And we can see from the last speaker how Google, people really going to Google to learn about different things. I always tell my students in the class, don't rely on what I'm teaching you in class alone, because out there, if you Google it, you will get a lot more. And that's what we also teach. Lecturers will also be, keep at the back of our mind. Now we say we are facilitators. In other words, don't see that you have all that somebody needs to know. We encourage our students, learn it to learn. Let them go out there and learn beyond what we have taught them in class. This is what, is. So in other words, the central role of our university is to make students think, to question interpretation given to them, so that it's not returned to sender. They identify problems, but this is the responsibility that the lesson we also learn from other countries. For example, Ireland, they did a national plan for skills. A study of skills required in different sectors of the economy. To be able to do it. That was what the type of thing you expect from our manpower board. But unfortunately in Nigeria now, there's no manpower board as far as we are concerned. And we need that. So that is very important because university will learn a lot from that. And in the case of Chile, they had labor market observatory, which we found, really intriguing. And what is that Chile labor market observatory? This for all the graduates from Chilean university. They do a study of after graduation, a year into the graduation, employability of graduates, a year into it, and see what they obtain. Okay? See in here, Chile labor market observatory. Architecture, if you look at the one on the left, architecture, 73% of the graduates were able to get something within the first year. Then on 62%, 97% under accountant, auditor, 100%, if you look towards the middle, 100%, telecom engineering, 100%, all of them got employment, within the first year. Then other 97%, you can imagine a university, having something like this. You'll be able to plan. Students also will be able to even see which sector they're going. But unfortunately, we don't have this type of thing in Nigeria, and it's very, very important, to know, how things are happening. Then, like I've said, what we found is that what are those attributes of highly employable graduate? And we have 10 of them listed here, which people can, subject specialists, investigative, resourceful, effective. These are things that we find in the University of Glasgow, they were addressing in all their programs, collective manner, embedded into their curriculum. And I think this is the responsibility for us, the lecture, universities. In here, you see the definition of this, the discipline, scientific skills, all the skill sets, independent and critical thinkers, our students will think critical, investigative, and so on. Is reflective learner, and I always give you example in under reflective and critical thinking that I hope people are still hearing me. I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, we are hearing you, sir.
Hello?
Yes. Yes, we are hearing you.
Yes, you are hearing me.
We can hear you, sir.
Praise God. Now,
Yes.
on learners and critical thinking. Now, there's one can give an example where we have to really worry about reflective thinking and critical thinking. Now, in class, a lecturer solved the problem of a mass of 20 kilograms being thrown from the top of a tower that is 30 meters high. And the question is, how long will it take before that mass reaches the ground? Those of us who have done physics, secondary school, or you will find that it's just a question of motion. And you will just substitute and you will get the time it will take. Once you know the height, and it's under gravity. It's solved. That was what he solved in class. But in the exam, he asked the student, the exam he said a mass of 10 kilograms on top of a well that is 30 meters deep, that mass is dropped into that well. How long will it take before that mass reaches the surface of the water in the well? You cannot believe it, that a number of students in the class were really screaming to say that the lecturer set exam on what he didn't teach them. That what the lecturer taught them was a mass falling from a tower. He never taught them a mass, falling into a well. You can see the problem, the disconnecting there. That they could not see the connection, even though the lecturer has already given them the analytical tool to study, but they could not see, they could not do reflective thinking to see that, these situations are not in any way different. It's still a mass falling under this. No. So, in other words, what they were expecting in exam is return to sender. It also brings to fore, what are we testing for? you know, in terms of what we teach and what are we examining, what are the skills. So these are things that we have to take. We saw people out there really taking very seriously. Now, let me just, when we are, I mean, three things that, I mean, we felt that is required in our university. There are three things we worry about: relevant curriculum, and then staff with proven competence in their field of study. Staff is the major driver. Then, of course, next is curriculum, and then the deployment of technology. I think the last speaker has said it all in terms of technology. I mean, what we have in there, the knowledge we have in there. We have to take into, I mean, due cognizance that university is no longer the only source of knowledge. No, there are now other knowledge sources. You know, which people, we say you can Google and so on, and we must encourage our students, you know, learn to go out in there. So that's why they say that we are now more of facilitators. But to cut things short, I mean, that study that we did, I mean, looking at it, we finally came up with a the report of our study was Gathering Employability and Skill Development in the Nigerian Education and Training System. It's a report that I'm sure NUC will be ready to share with the university. I mean, because we really went to town, both, I mean, international knowledge, what we got in there, and so on. And in our way forward, we're able to identify the responsibilities for different, whether government, university, NUC itself, and professional, I mean, like the chaos we are having now, the professional regulatory bodies and their role in all these things. Again, I mean, this is not to be excessed. So I'll just say, just to summarize, I mean, move fast, responsibility of NUC. What NUC is to review the BMAS with respect to diversity in the institutional landscape, in contrast to the present pursuit of absolute homogeneity. Thank God that under Rashid, NUC now has brought in the flexibility which is required. There's no reason why every university in the, I mean, for a program should be running exactly the same curriculum. No. University must be able to have a niche for itself. And NUC has really accepted this, in that the curriculum now that will now form the basis of accreditation, it is really based on 70% of it being prescribed by NUC. The remaining 30%, you allow the institution to create a niche for itself. So NUC has accepted that. Then conversion of program course synopsis to outcomes based. And in doing this, we have said that NUC, I mean, the university I mean, staff, I mean, professors, and the professional body must come together, because we're talking of how you now imbibe into the curriculum and so on. It's at this level we're bringing it in. For example, engineering, Council of Registered Engineers of Nigeria, they have taken to this. Current now, Current has come up with the outcome-based curriculum for engineering. And if colleagues in base are not, no, it's something that is available. I mean, that is, outcome, and that outcome base that Current has done, which is commendable. They liaise with other universities in US and so on, and then they came up with this outcome-based curriculum for engineering. And you need to really see it. It's a big departure from what we have, I mean, we are running now. So the professional bodies are coming in, you know, to really work together to have this outcome-based curriculum. Then attracting participation by professional bodies, as I've said, and employers in curriculum review. Very, very important. Okay? Then sideways. Then develop effective pedagogies that can be used to deliver content. Please, this is where, I mean, it's very, very important that we really have to, it's one thing to design this curriculum, it's another thing for the lecturer that are to deliver this also being, you know, I mean, trained on delivery. So that is very key. And now people are leveraging on IT for this. Development of the program accreditation system, organization of workshop on standard and procedure in curriculum development and review. Very, very important. And then organization of pedagogy workshop, promoting involvement of different stakeholders in skill development and preparation and submission. I mean, that NUC should really try to get government to have national skill development agency. That is a need requirement in the different sectors. University cannot do that on its own. Then what are the responsibilities of the university of university? Each institution must have a formal policy on employability and assume greater responsibility for employability. In other words, it must be a policy of the university that care about employability. Then using NUC benchmark, as I mentioned before, to now come up with your own curriculum over and above the minimum in the BMAS. Then involve transformative pedagogies to deliver the new curriculum and take students away from the current passive pedagogy, which takes learning as memorization and reproduction. Then improve the teaching function through attention to its teaching. Teachers are key. You have to build the capacity of lecturers to handle the dynamic teaching and learning. It's no longer this. It's not a question of a lecturer now using his old notes or using the face to me. No. A number of things now have come. So it's very, very important that university takes, capacity building of lecturers. Then using the calculated full-time to know the staffing requirement. I think every program, you must be able to, based on your students' enrollment and courses being offered, the staff required. For this thing to work, you must have adequate staff, so that your carrying capacity, very, very important. Then establish a well-equipped center for entrepreneurship, innovation, and so on. I think most universities now are going to establish quality assurance unit. Then that we found, that most universities, doing this are really gaining a lot. They establish mechanism for a conduct of what is called trace studies of the performance of graduates of your university. That is, where are they? And what the feedback from them is what is called trace studies. And it's very, very important to get the feedback, graduates and what experience they're bringing back to you. So, things like this, you can, the entrepreneurship, which we are having now, I'm sure a number of people, entrepreneurship courses, making students to become entrepreneurial in their thinking and so on, a number of courses in there also. In here, I gave an example of a university that is having entrepreneurship in the way in which when students come in, they register from the first day by way of choice. They can choose from about 10 different vocational studies, whether woodwork, computer servicing, software development, maintenance, textile design, and so on. And then they are taken through that in the next day, and they end up with a certificate in that area that they are picked, so that they get certificates. One is a vocational certificate in the area they are picked, whether it's computer maintenance or software development, and the other one, the degree. It's quite so. Who is an entrepreneur? I leave you to read it. But what is of interest to me is what somebody's, that in the area of IT, one is giving an example of Steve Jobs here. The message one is sending through this is that when Steve Jobs started as undergraduate, they went to Atari when they had this idea that they felt, we shake the world. Most computers then were mainframe, and they had this thing that, could be just, handheld computers or tabletop computer. They've already got the idea together. So they said, we have an amazing thing. Some of you were built with your parts. And what do you think? That was when they went to Atari about funding us, or we will give it to you. We just want to do it, pay our salary. Youth being carried by that idea. And they said no, that they were not interested. So they went to Hewlett Packard, and they said, hey, we don't need, Hewlett Packard said, no, we don't need you. You haven't even gone through college. That is, they have not even graduated before they had that idea. They even went further to Xerox and saw the graphical user interface technology. But Xerox didn't see a large market for it. Steve Jobs, they saw it. But what are we seeing today? But Joe was key to see it. And today, they've sold, in the 1980s, today, millions of PC. What is the lesson? The above example of Steve Jobs and to our students that the entrepreneurial process is characterized by the decision of strong forces of inertia. They should not be everything they get as somebody must approve. You have an idea, keep going. Keep going, and you find that at the end of the day, that idea was. And so one usually give that as Steve Jobs and Wozniak that staff quality is very key. That is, we know that now. To be able to staff our various programs is not easy because there is academic human capital in the country, because so many universities now, almost 200 universities, I mean, the academic human capability is not there to run, I mean, all the program, but the university must make sure that you have quality staff, you know, to be able to carry all these things. I mean, this one shows the graphical spread of where the universities now, we are about 200, you know, spread all over the country. But what is of importance is that it's showing us that the competition for staff, because how many staff are coming from outside? It's the same sort of staff that we are pushing here and there, and it's a serious problem for any university and not to be addressed. That's what this one is trying to say. And in terms of NUC saying that we must have PhD, again, it's because of the research. I mean, a measure of research capacity of a staff is that at least if he has a PhD, he has already introduced, I mean, to research. But from what I did in UI, this is just to give profile that yes, while some programs have high percentage of staff with PhD, there are some programs that traditionally, they don't tend to have it. Law, maybe law is changing gradually, dentistry, the medical, they tend to say that, oh, it's their professional qualification, but no. I mean, there's still something to say for PhD. So as much as possible, where the staff don't have PhD, a university must have very good staff development scheme to be able to sponsor staff, you know, to acquire a high degree. So finally, emphasis of introducing employability to institution, building an institutional culture that promotes employability, building relationship with employers at all levels within the institution. You must be engaged with employer. Capacity building for staff to support students in the development of employability skills. I mean, success factor, leadership. The Vice Chancellor and so on must provide leadership. Then the program design and delivery. How you design the program curriculum, how you deliver. Then employer involvement. Then institutional autonomy. So, in conclusion, one says here, a high cumulative grade point average resulting in excellent class of degree is undoubtedly desirable as a measure of intellectual capacity. But the attitudes of job seeker are equally not more important to the employer, that is the soft skills. It is therefore becoming increasingly crucial for graduates to cultivate qualities most sought after by their potential employer. This now includes motivation, critical thinking, problem solving, and there are ways in which we say that this can be incorporated and handled. So our students therefore have to prepare themselves. It's not only the lecturer doing this. Students also have to the challenge of a changing world by improving the knowledge to meet the demands. So again, the concept of employability places a lot of responsibility on our universities to develop all the above attributes. But it is pertinent to know that a university's purpose cannot be solely in terms of the employment rate of graduates, since the absorptive capacity of the economy comes into play in determining the rate of employment. In conclusion, we said most institutions that have recorded high level of success in getting have achieved this through the formulation of deliberate graduate employability policy with implementation of the employability embedded curricula involving all levels of university management. Our universities and the NUC stand to gain a lot from this. Thank you. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
So to hear me.
Yes, we can
Okay.
hear you. Thank you very much for your nice presentation.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you for your presentation, sir.
Hello.
Hello, we are with you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for your presentation. Is any questions from the audience or online?
Hello.
Yes, sir, I can hear you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Hello?
Hello, sir. I can hear you. Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yeah. Hello?
I can hear you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear
sir.
you.
Question from the audience.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the great presentation. I think the data you shared with us provided some kind of insight about what is going on in other parts of the world. But I'm a little bit curious because do we have similar data or something close to that data about employability in Nigeria or Africa? And if we don't, what are we to do to acquire such data in the very researchful? Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. It says something whether we have it in Nigeria or Africa. What data?
The data you share for Chile about
Oh, the Chile. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the data I showed from the case of Chile. Hello?
We can hear you, sir.
Hello? Yeah, we don't.
Can hear you. We can hear you.
We don't. Yeah, the case of the like I said, when we saw the data from Chile, it really intrigued us. And we now ask ourselves, what of the manpower board? Because it's supposed to come from something like that. Nigeria has got the manpower, but unfortunately, the manpower board was dissolved, and then later they transferred it to NISA. NISA was asked to handle it. And in NISA, we contacted, nothing happening. So that was why the outcome of our study, we said we just must make sure that we bring back, an agency for the type of thing we have seen both in Ireland and in Chile in terms of providing necessary feedback, not only to the student, but also to the university. We don't have it in the country now. We don't. But it's something that came strongly from our study that the country must have it. Just like I said in there, even the skills required. Most countries in India, they have Ministry of Skills. And that ministry is just responsible for all sectors, determining whether it's textile or name it, what are the skills required. And then they are matching this to institutions that will provide the different levels of skills. We need this. It's not negotiable. We need this to guide the university. So I agree with you. In the country, we don't have it, and we just must get it if we are to really tackle the problem we're talking about.
Thank you, sir. We have another question online. And it reads, what aspect of Nigeria is more crucial to the employer of people? So what aspect of Nigeria is more crucial to the employer of people?
Employer of labor.
Yes, it's in the chat section. It says, what aspect of Nigeria is more crucial to the employer of people?
Yeah. Now, what is crucial to the employer of labor? Hello?
Hello?
Okay, what aspect of a Nigerian graduate appeals more? Oh, okay. Okay, what of a graduate appeals more to the employer of labor? Yeah. Well, I must say that during that time, we only had but there was a study that was sponsored by British Council, which one can also share. I mean, I have a copy of that report looking at the employability and what sort of things. I mean, they cover so many sectors of the Nigerian economy, looking at what skills people were asking for and so on. Overall, by and large, most of them claim that when you talk of technical skills, in terms of, okay, in a discipline, whether engineering, economics, and so on, the students, well, they were doing fairly okay, although there are still gaps. But the ones they said, I mean, they had the greatest gap, happened to be in the area of soft skills, problem solving, critical thinking, communication. some employer complained that students could not even write. You know, they could not even simple things. You give them an assignment, not even write that. You have to be correcting the English. At times, what they meant was different from what you have written down. You know, communication, and then they were not really good in. They were not really critical thinkers. You know, and things like that. So we had a study like that that I couldn't share with you in this very brief presentation. But there's a study like that 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 one can share, which gave an insight into what some of the employers, not only in Nigeria, the study by the British Council was for 6 countries, both in North Africa, in South Africa, but in West Africa, they picked Nigeria and Ghana. And most of the outcome of that study, you know, almost similar in terms of gaps, skill gaps that people were there. But by and large, I would say it's really the entire range of both soft and hard skills that they found, really deficient. So it's very important. Then somebody is saying, can I read the question? How do we deal?
Okay, so are you still with us?
Is there another question?
Are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, you can check the chat section.
What's the question?
By Abbas Mwazu. It says, how do we deal with the much of modification when it comes to research?
How do we deal with?
For instance, under the Technical National Research. The question by
how do we deal that? How do we deal with?
The chat section, it says, how do we deal with the much emphasis on qualification when it comes to research and innovation? For instance, under the Technical National Research Fund, the research lead must be at least a senior lecturer. Conversely, you have just cited examples of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs that have come up with innovations which have changed the world. So if you check this chat section, there's a question by Abbas Mwazu.
Okay, let me check. Chat. Okay, let me check. Okay. Okay. How do we deal with much emphasis on qualification when it comes to research and innovation? For instance, under the Technical there must be at least a senior lecturer. Conversely, you must have just cited the example of Bill Gates and Steve that have come up. Okay. Well, I don't know whether I will have time. In terms of TED Fund, NRF, is something that I dealt with in my second presentation. Because what we have had, the comment by the Abbas is correct that only senior lecturer and above can lead the research, can be principal investigator. You must be senior lecturer and above, okay? But of course, other lecturers will come in. It's only mentoring from point of view of mentorship of the team that we always insist that at least you need somebody who is adequately experienced, at least senior lecturer, then professor. We have seen cases, of course, where when we ask for the defense of project that we're about to give grant, we have always brought them to Abuja to really now come and defend what you have written. And we have seen cases where the professor will turn to a senior lecturer or even somebody like to say that, yes, it's his idea and he will be responding. We have, so it's not a question that people saying that the junior ones don't have idea. No, they do have. But when we talk of mentorship is still key in the area of research and innovation. So I think that's what is driving it. Well, it's not saying that the young ones don't have idea. No, the young ones really, even at times, they are the drivers of the thing, but the experienced old one will still be able to come in to guide, the conduct of that research. The National Research Fund, because I've been involved with the National Involved Fund since its inception. I mean, as I said, I mean, for 10 years, and we know this. We know this. It's not that we are saying that the old ones have the exclusive preserve of knowledge and innovation. No, no. I mean, the young ones, you know, I mean, also have ideas that we can tap on. But I believe that mentorship is very, very important when it comes to research, and that is what is driving saying only senior lecturer, professor can be PI. All other participants, multidisciplinary, not even just one discipline. You know, I mean, must come in, because that is that is the knowledge. You know, it's a pity. If I have opportunity of presenting the second paper, you will have seen what has driven the NRF and in the research and innovation we are talking about. And then you will also even appreciate, you know, in the second paper, you know, you appreciate why we need a research management office, which is of interest to, to the university, you know. So it's, basically that's what I can say before going, if I'm allowed to go into, briefly into that second paper.
Thank you very much, sir. That's all the questions we have.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Professor James, are you with us?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Professor James Oguni, are you with us?
Yes, yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Thank you very much for patience. You can please continue your presentation.
Right. I'm not sure of what Dr. Rusla want me to present, but I guess probably want me to start from what I was presenting yesterday with little or no time. But let me see if I can get that out. Right. Okay. Just bear with me, please. Right. Okay.
After James, we can have John. You can ask John from IBM if he's ready. John not available.
No, they're currently not available. I think I mentioned that.
We can come back by 2.
Or do you want to give people a break or something like that?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So we'll reconvene by 2. Let's go for a quick break.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, right. Thank you.
So there's a break?
Yes.
So